Morning. It is just after midnight here on the West Coast. That means it's time to start working, right? It's at least when I start working. So let's make sure everything's running properly here. And of course Twitch is completely screwed up at the moment and I can't even get to my own dashboard. Thanks Twitch. Good job there, buddy. Really appreciating that. Well, I'll try back in another 5 minutes. What the hell? There it goes. Alright, it was just taking 2 million years. Alright, cool. So, what do we got? There's a few things I'd like to do. So, we want to put in a secondary layer for clouds and a multiplier for how big it's going to be. And then a multiplier for all that. And then we need to figure out a few more things. We want the adjustment for the light to be at a different direction for the God rays so we can do some work with that. We need to make sure that we have the adjustment there for reflections. So, and then if we get that done, we're going to start on getting the sunrise, sunset, moonrise, and moonset sort of stuff customized a bit. Try to figure out what we're going to do with that. So let's start off with the basics. Let's get that secondary layer of clouds. Yeah, we've got the cloud light radius and all that sort of stuff. Oh yeah, and we made that whole remap function and all that crazy stuff. Alright, so we're going to need a second layer for clouds. Where did that even get created? It created the comment over here. Alright, that's not very helpful. I mean, why have one layer of clouds when you can have 2 layer clouds? Am I right? Of course I'm right. Alright, so we'll have our cloud tile multiplier 2, cloud speed 2, cloud brightness 2, cloud texture 2, excuse me. Alright, so we have the cloud brightness, so we've got that, and then we basically want to take this and multiply and add itself together again. So we'll have another little thing coming up over here. So we'll add the clouds together. Gosh, I do not know a very good way to organize all this node ridiculousness. It's a frickin' snake. Let's just organize all this stuff. Just a little bit, we don't need that much organization. I mean, let's be honest here. Alright, we'll apply that material. So let's see, we have a couple more, yeah, let's check out the files. So we have the cloud texture 2, we have the cloud speed, cloud tile multiplier, cloud brightness. Excellent. So what we need to do is hook these up inside of our blueprint for our skybox. So let's add some more variables to our cloud speed. Cloud camera speed, right. Is the camera speed getting added in here properly? I guess we're not using the cloud camera speed anymore. We're just using the camera vector. Well, I guess that's one question that we could have, is we could add in, why don't we write that down, add back in the cloud camera speed, and we'll do that after we get this sorted out. So we want the cloud speed, cloud brightness, tile multiplier, light radius. I think we just want the tile multiplier. And let's create a new kind of thing. Let's call it clouds 2. So cloud tile multiplier. We're going to have the cloud brightness 2, the cloud texture 2, tile brightness, I guess we need an actual cloud brightness as well. Alright, so let's make sure these are all set up. So this is how bright the second cloud layer is. And that should go from 0 to 10, something like that. Let's say cloud brightness should be 1, cloud texture 2, tile texture for the cloud, sorry. Actual cloud brightness. This is how bright the clouds are. Actually, no, we don't need a tooltip for this because this is the actual temporary variable. Alright, let's go ahead and set these variables. guess we need cloud speed too as well. Cloud tile multiplier, cloud light multiplier. Well, the cloud speed should just be cloud speed. Like, they should both be affected by it, but, well, why don't we try cloud speed 2 as well? Does our material have that? Yes, it does. Alright, so let's get our cloud speed 2. Slot it in there. Actual cloud brightness. This will be actual cloud brightness 2. This will be cloud tile multiplier. Cloud speed, cloud tile, cloud brightness. See, where's the cloud texture being set? Here. So let's snag that. Slot it in there just like the rest. Alright, we've got that set up. Let's go ahead and compile that out. Let's see, we got clouds 2, we got the tile multiplier. How come I'm not seeing everything? That's because these categories have spaces in the names and stuff like that. Alright, they should all be in the same category now. Let's make sure. Clouds 2, excellent. And of course it's not doing anything that we need. Alright, so what we're going to want to do is make sure that our test sky material actually saved. Yeah, our secondary clouds are all up there. We've got our cloud texture, we've got our panner, got all of that stuff going on. Alright, so this is update shader parameters. Alright, so we got all that updated. Actual cloud brightness is probably not getting set, which is why the clouds aren't even going to show up. So we need, in our compute time of day, we want to basically look for where we're actually setting our actual cloud brightness. And we want to make sure we're setting our other cloud brightness. So we're just hooking stuff up. Nothing too insane. Nice, that's daytime. Let's see, nighttime. So we're just gonna relax and just do work today. We're not in a big hurry to get anything finished. We're just gonna chill out and do what we need to do. Alright, so for the setting sun, cloud brightness is again going to be just the actual cloud brightness. Cloud brightness, I guess, is always basically getting set to itself, but I want to reserve the right to change that. I'll be messing around with it here probably shortly when we get to a few other things. Let's see, earlier this week was the 4th of July. I did about nothing, as I should. It was pretty awesome. I'd already gone out on the boat and done other stuff earlier in the week, so just kind of chilling out. Alright, so that should get us the secondary layer of clouds. And they're quite bright. Let's see, cloud brightness 2, we can set that to 0 or huge. So let's see, what was the cloud brightness for the other clouds? Point 0.1? Yeah, let's do a 0.1 here. I should actually set that default for cloud brightness. Yeah, so we'll have 2 layers of clouds. And you can barely see them, like they're there. And of course, this is not very Brackenwood-esque. Like the clouds are just all wrong, but they're there. Alright, and one of the things that we probably should do is have our movement speed, our camera movement speed, affect our clouds. So let's see what that's going to take. So basically right now, our camera vector, which is normalized, determines which UV coordinates we use, and we multiply by a value. So the question could be, how much do we want to change the UV coordinates based on our... Do we want to do it based on the world position of the pixel? I mean, we could do that. So we get the absolute world position, break out the float 3 component from that. And what we would do is we would just add this resultant here. And we would multiply by a value in order to see how much world position is actually going to modify this thing. And do we want world position or do we want camera position? Because maybe we want the camera position because the skybox, the sky sphere is going to be moving along with the camera, so we could just get the camera position in world space and kind of do that. So let's see if we multiply it by 1 and all that, if what we get. Alright, so as we can turn our heads and nothing happens, and if we go to the... Geez, okay. So we go to the right. We need to multiply this by a very small number. I mean, obviously we only want to change the U coordinate here. We don't ever want to change the V. And I guess it's a negative value as well, because we're going the wrong direction with it. Yeah, so as we move to the right, we want the clouds to move to the left. But we want to move at a very, very small speed. Even smaller than that. That's kind of the problem, is that's too small of a value. We can't actually put anything in here. Hello, Majestic Mac. How are you doing today? I'm just working on materials, working on getting these clouds to move based on the camera a little bit. So let's see. I want to basically multiply this by a very small number, and then I guess another very small number. This one's like 0.00001. It's like e to the 6th, then we're going to multiply it by 0.5. Because we're having trouble, the node values go to 0, so we can't even see what number we're plugging in here. So as the camera moves, the clouds are actually going the wrong way. We need a negative number so the clouds go the opposite direction of the camera. And that's much better. So just a little bit of movement on the clouds as you're running should give us a little bit of an illusion that the clouds are, you know, real objects in the world and not just mathematical things in the sky, which is what they actually are. Alright, so we've got that going. What we're going to want to do here is have what's the name for it? We already had a name. It was the cloud camera speed. So let's see where this is. So we're already setting it in there. So we should have cloud camera speed, and we should also have a cloud camera speed 2, I believe. So let's duplicate this, call this cloud camera speed 2. And let's make sure that we set it over in our construction script. Alright, so let's go snag it, cloud camera speed. So we're just going to update the cloud camera speed here. So we need to slot them in. And how you set stuff on, you set parameters into shaders is you make a material instance and then you can pass in values into it. So we can refer to things like this. I can just make a constant that comes off here, and then I can right click and say convert to parameter, and then this will be cloud camera speed 2. Alright. And then I'll be able to add this node section down here to these other clouds like this. And I'll change this name to cloud camera speed, just like that. And then we can apply, save, and start messing with this thing. So cloud camera speed is set at 0.5, which is what we had it, so both clouds should move at the same speed. I'm going to change this so the cloud camera speed 2 is... Let's see, we want it to move faster if it's these clouds, so maybe like a 0.6. And the other cloud camera speed is a 0.5, yeah. So the quote-unquote closer clouds will move at a very slightly faster speed. Which is what they're doing. It's just barely. You can kind of barely see it. There's this very light layer of clouds, and then there's a more solid layer of clouds, and the solid layer of clouds is moving a little bit faster. And these are all the wrong clouds. But that's fine. So we can jump off into infinity. Not bad. Alright, we'll save that up. I'm still waiting for emotes to come through for affiliates. It's like I submitted my emote, and it's still pending even though I submitted it a couple days ago. I guess they have a whole lot of affiliates that are wanting all their stuff to get through, huh? That might cause a little bit of a logjam. Alright, let's make sure we saved everything. Okay, so we got cloud camera speed in there. And we have our secondary layer of clouds. We added that. So now we want the adjusting the light angle for different values for different times of the day. So the issue right now is basically we've got this sun that's going in the sky. And if I make the time of day advance, like you can see that the light is directly following, where this object is. And as a result, we've got these big long shadows, and the long shadows are good during like some times of the day, but they're really not in the middle of the day. Like the middle of the day, it should be all bright, not just this huge shadow, and things should actually be we should see basically our character fully lit. So the question is, how do we want to accomplish that? There's a couple different ways we could do that. Because as this thing goes across the sky, we're just changing it. Like we could change the angle so that it's higher than that object, but that might not do everything that we want. I could change the rise height angle, or like, I could change it so the height angle was very high. I mean, let's see what that looks like. Yeah, we barely even get to see the sun or the moon if we do that. Which isn't the worst thing in the world, to be honest. I mean, if we had our rise angle, like if we take this and we take it to, like 6 o'clock. Yeah, so it's like 8 o'clock. If we change the the rise angle to something very much smaller, then this thing will kind of go like that. Let's see if that works for us. Which kind of works a bit for the sun. Like we don't have the sun just randomly in the sky, just blinding the hell out of us. But with the moon, it seems like we'd want a little bit more. Like the moon, we might want just hanging up at the top of the sky, you know, during the same scene. So we want, like, I guess we need a moon customization in there, so the moon changes. Why don't we just start writing these things down? Alright. Different rise/set angles for sun and moon. So let's see, at noon here, you know, the sun is still over there. And we still have these shadows that are actually pretty big. The height angle, let's see if we can change that height angle. So I don't need to look at the clouds anymore. Alright, so the height angle, let's just say it can actually go to like 100 degrees. Alright, so let's change the height angle. You know, if we throw this thing way up in the sky. So we put it at 100 degrees. Then, you know, we don't have any shadows here. We have some shadows, right, but they're not there. So we'd be like total. Let's just see how it looks. Yeah, we see crazy stuff happening here with this bush as the light gets real high in the sky. So it may be that we don't want to actually, we want to use a secondary light. Those shadows don't look right sometimes. Yeah, that's for sure. Also, hello, Sonicron. Yeah, what I think I'll want basically is a shorter height angle. But I want to blend basically. Like if this is at midday or whatever, the sun obviously needs to be higher in the sky. You know, we should be lit better. So how exactly should we accomplish that? I mean, we could leave this how it is and make another directional light that turns on completely. So we'd have like our skybox, and we could have our skylight. You know, this skylight could, like it was 3, we could have it go to like a larger number. But that's not really what we want. If we had a second light entirely, what would that look like? Distance from the sky that the geometry should be treated as part of the sky. Intensity. I mean, we could just ramp up the skylight to maximum values during the day. Just kind of work that way. I mean, the shadows, the problem is the shadows look wrong. Because, you know, it's the middle of the day. Your shadows should not exist, pretty much. And there's a couple of ways we could actually deal with this. We could either have shadows happen. Does our rotation still work? Yeah, our rotation still works. Well, if we turned our... I think we pretty much want our directional light just to come all the way up top. So it would be like our height angle would be 90. So it should be directly overhead. So we'd have no shadows or very little shadows. So if we had that happen, we went all the way up to 90, and then we change our skylight to be a bigger intensity. Then I guess that's not too bad. Well, I don't see any shadows on the character, which really isn't what I want. Why don't we throw a character in there just so we can see his shadows as we play around with it? Alright, it's this guy. No collision, cast shadow, and should be mass split sprite. Camera speed's killing me. He's so small. Yeah, but it definitely seems like it's not just a 90-degree, it's a bit more. And then we've got this, there's a invisible bush here that's casting a shadow onto this thing. Yeah, casting shadows doesn't really do anything with any of this. Yeah, the lower hemisphere solid color is not what we want. Let's see, effects world. It's given us a weird sort of blue outline on some of this. Yes, the lower hemisphere solid color. Alright, so yeah, we need to leave the lower hemisphere solid color as it is. But it's almost as if, you know, we should have this color and we should have this light working as opposed to the skylight at all. Like, the skylight doesn't seem to do a super great job. So you're asking, if you wanted to take an object in 3D space and take a slice of it at a certain z value, what do you think would be a better method? Rendering the object as normal and setting a very tiny clip space so that the outline is rendered, or to make better sense just to take the vertex data and interpolate? So you're trying to take a slice of an object at a certain z value, so I'm guessing by slice of an object at a z value you mean there's an object in space and then the z is the depth, and you're just trying to take like a whatever section of that, kind of like x-ray vision, so you're looking into the object and you get just the outline of it, I guess, and then you're going to want to do something with that value. I mean, if you're trying to get an outline, I think the biggest thing, usually what you do is you just inflate the vertices by a certain amount, and then you've got your outline. You'll move them out by the normal of the surface in the vertex shader, and that way it'll just, your thing will get bigger in your vertex shader, and you can then in your pixel shader deal with stuff. You know, draw a larger or smaller object and mask it or whatever. But it depends on what you're trying to do. The classic approach, I think, is to use the vertex shader in order to implement that sort of effect. So I think that's probably where I would go first. So I'm not super impressed with the skylight during the day. It looks more like the directional light would work better. So like, you know, we could have a brighter day here at like 15. And that's probably our best bet for getting a daytime, is just a nice directional light, which is nicely pretty much overhead, making it bright. And that seems to preserve the colors a lot better than like a skybox. The skylight doesn't seem to do too much for it. Like, we can still have the skylight, you know, just a little bit, you know, just a little bit of stuff on there. I think that'll work. Inflate the object so much that the camera is halfway through it? No, I'm more talking about you can inflate the vertex. You know, you move the vertex and the vertex shader out by the normal with a certain distance, and then you draw the object like that. And then you draw it using a different pixel shader or something like that, so you can figure out later, usually in post-processing, how to draw outlines. But if you're just trying to draw an object, like just drawing into the object, I mean, the clip plane will do that if you're not trying to do some sort of outline effect. So I guess I would more need to know the purpose of kind of what you're trying to do in order to give you any sort of advice that may or may not be horribly wrong. Alright, so let's see. Bright directional light works well for daytime. Let's see, the skylight works well for nighttime, coupled with dim directional light. I guess more what I was talking about there was like if you've got a box and it's filled with a color or whatever, I don't know if this is just me not knowing what, but if I grab that and I inflate it by its vertices, so I pasted this thing, if I draw it a little bit bigger, you know, I inflate the object just like that, but instead of drawing, you know, this object just to the screen, I draw like this outline to the stencil buffer or something else. Then I can get this information later, and then I can render an outline just by, because another object could draw over this thing and it would also draw over the outline. So I could draw a second object over it, and then I could draw this as like an outline effect or something of the object, because in our buffer or whatever, when we've drawn over this stuff, the only thing that's going to get to the stencil buffer is this green outline part. I mean, the only information would be that outline there. So you could be able to, you know, do some sort of aura glow around the red box. But I don't know if that's what you're trying to do. And a shitty version of that sort of outline I could show you in this crappy college game that I worked on. Basically, like, that's the sort of vertex shader outline that you could get with that sort of thing, where you just inflate by the normals and then you can do stuff in whatever shaders to based on that when it gets drawn. Hooray, water shaders from